Modern Pleasure answers the questions about sex that you've always wanted to ask but didn't.
Join me, Kim K, and our resident sexpert, Dr. Jenny Schuyler, as we dive deep into combos ranging from sexual intimacy and pleasure to eye-opening sexual revelations. Thanks for joining us again on Modern Pleasure. We're having some great conversations for sure. And want to remind you that our friends at Adam and Eve have been very generous in offering our listeners 50% off. If you go to adamandeve.com and give them that code MODERN, you're going to get the Modern Pleasure discount, 50% off on almost anything, just because you're listening to Modern Pleasure today. Use promo code MODERN, get 50% off plus free shipping. And who doesn't love free shipping? Plus, Adam and Eve are also sending you 3 bonus sexy items and 6 movies for free. Now, this is an exclusive offer just for this podcast, and we're thanking you so much for your support. And so we want you to get something back. So use code MODERN and you get not just the 50% off, but 100% free shipping. Code MODERN, MODERN. Go to adamandeve.com right now. Doesn't matter what you choose. Everything is packaged super discreetly. And that promo again, MODERN, MODERN, saves some money on some fun stuff to spice things up in your bedroom. Also, if you have a question for Dr. Schuyler, you can email me at kim@modernpleasurepodcast.com, and maybe we'll even get you on the podcast. You never know. Hi, Dr. Jenny Schuyler.
Hi, Kim. Great to be back.
Okay, so I've been gearing up for this conversation. I think it's going to be interesting. I also feel like it is definitely out of the norm of those typical conversations that we've been having or we'll possibly have again. Because when you brought up this topic, I was like, huh? What is this about exactly? Because I've never heard of this. Although, like I mentioned in our last episode, I have heard of Madonna. She's a singer. I like her song Like a Virgin. But the Madonna-Whore complex is not something I'm familiar with. And I'm dying to find out what this is about.
Yeah. So today,
Why are we talking about it? First and foremost.
yeah, I mean, I think we are talking about this because it's a little known fact around sexuality that a lot of people are actually suffering from. And I say that because I have a lot of couples in this situation where one person in the relationship has this Madonna whore complex. And I want to be clear, I really don't like that language, but it's the language we have in terms of the psychology of this right now. But this Madonna whore complex is this discrepancy in the brain that a lot of basically it's a thing that people suffer from where it completely turns off their sexuality towards their partner. And that can be tricky, right? We want to be able to fully turn on the dial of our sexuality and let that flow freely. And so if there is a full block in the plumbing, then the relationship is going to suffer. And as a sex therapist, as a relationship therapist, my job is to help people relieve their suffering and find the utmost satisfaction and pleasure, both emotionally and sexually. So for those who suffer from Madonna-Whore complex, whether it's a subtle form of it to a very severe form of it, it's good to kind of know what it is, how to track it in your own body if it's something that plagues you, and how to solve it.
So it's safe to say that somebody who is suffering from these feelings, and it's obviously kind of a psychological feeling, or having these barriers when it comes to sex with their significant other, they may not even have a clue that this is the cause of that issue.
They often don't, but when I give it language, it's like, oh yeah, that's me. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
'cause it's easy to spot, like, erectile dysfunction or libido issues or all of these other issues. This sounds to me like it's clearly a psychological thing,
Yeah. Yes.
obviously.
Yeah. And people know that. So I'll give you an example of how it shows up in the office. And as I mentioned in the last podcast, I want to be really clear that I have full respect and reverence for religions and people's autonomy and choice to, you know, be in the world however they want to be in the world. So if Catholicism or Christianity is your religion and I'm sitting here talking about Madonna-Whore complex and you feel a little bit triggered, I want to say that please know that I fully respect the religion. What I want to say about it is that sometimes some religions, particularly Catholicism in this case, have a lot of rigid narratives around sexuality. There's a lot of good things too, right? So couples who do wait until marriage oftentimes feel the sacredness of sex in a beautiful way. But if they do get plagued by Madonna-Whore, it's a struggle. So Madonna-Whore is oftentimes these messages of sex is a sin, sex is dirty, don't masturbate or don't have sex until you're married. Um, on one hand, can really serve the couple to allow for the sacredness of their union, and on the other hand, sometimes a schism can happen in the brain where I can allow myself to have sex with other, with whore, with exotic, but if my partner or my wife is like the Mary Madonna, like the Virgin Mary, she is not to be soiled. She is to be respected and revered, and I should not look at her in any sexual way whatsoever.
That
So
is so do you no, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm listening to what you're saying, and the only thing that I feel I'm my question right now is does this happen because of childbirth or after childbearing years, or does it matter?
it doesn't matter. So what happens, it happens in childhood and adolescence, right? The imprint gets lodged into the psyche of the individual. And they're okay dating and having sex oftentimes. And then what happens is as the commitment scales up, right? So for some people, it's when they become boyfriend, girlfriend, or when they move in, or when they get engaged, or when they get married, or certainly when they have kids. This iron curtain comes down, and suddenly the brain goes, this is my committed partner. She is the one that I respect and revere. She's not to be sexualized. She is not to be soiled because sexualizing her also means I am soiling her. So if she's not a committed woman in my life, she's I hate to use the word whore, but if she's sort of like this other non-committal partner, then it's okay to have sex. They could, the person can feel the fluidity and the sexuality and the arousal. But the moment that that commitment really gets laid down, then it turns off. The sexuality turns off for that person, not for others.
Right. So let's stick with I'm just gonna say husband and wife
Sure.
scenario. So this is a psychological imprint that's primarily on the husband. Does the wife understand her role in this? I mean, maybe not, or I mean, if he's putting her on this pedestal as somebody that he cannot soil sexually, is that otherwise too? Is it just sexually? And does she feel the effects of this, this syndrome or psychological issue with her mate?
Oh, yeah. So when couples come to me with this, what she often feels is completely undesirable, and she does not understand what is going on. And oftentimes, the woman will say, "Am I not good looking enough? Um, are you gay? Are you having an affair?" Because
Mm,
confusing to them while that their partner was super into them, and then sort of suddenly, I mean, it scales down, but it can feel sudden. Um, they can't even get an erection. They don't have any drive for their partner. And they love that partner. They respect that partner. This is the partner they want to share a life with, but they cannot it's very unconscious. So they can't feel their sexuality towards their partner. So the women are devastated by this. Now, I'll say this too, Kim, this can be reversed
I
in
was
that
just gonna ask that. Can it happen to the woman too?
totally. So she can internalize the Madonna-Whore. And, as long as she's not married or committed, she can be playful and seductive and be the whore, if you will. But the second that she has a commitment that requires her to be in that sort of Mary Madonna role, whether it's engaged, whether it's married, whether it's now a mother, suddenly it comes down, I should not be sexual now, right? Like
Mm.
unconscious, which is why I bring it to consciousness. I name it. I ask, does this resonate? For a lot of people, it doesn't. Okay, so we drop it. For a lot of people, they're like, thank goodness there's language. So yes, it can get internalized.
That's really interesting. So it would have the same effect on the husband not feeling desired if the wife or the partner is kind of putting them in that situation of, I am not allowing myself to have sex or be sexual because now I'm in this position of, feeling a little I don't holier than thou. I don't know what the word is. I don't know what the term is. How it's a really hard one for me to wrap my head around. Um, e so
Feeling the responsibility of the religion, right? The religious responsibility is I am now, let's call it wife or mother. As wife or mother, my role is to be pure. My role is to serve husband or children. And even if they don't take it that far, my role is not to be sexual, right?
is it
That is
really driven by religion, though? Is religion the main component here?
so yes and no. I'll have people who have no religion, or they'll joke that they're a recovering Catholic, and they still can be affected by this because if they grew up in a Catholic upbringing, either going to Catholic school or going to the church, or even just having parents who were Catholic and instilled this message. So it doesn't even you don't even have to step foot into a church to have this message be imprinted. You could have a parent that goes, "Oh, that girl down the street wears too low cut of a thing. She's a slut." Right? And then the girl may hear, "Oh, I should never wear low cut things. My mother will think I'm a slut." And
Mhm.
that's bad. I want my mother's approval, so I don't wear low cut things. And in fact, not only do I not wear low cut things, I'm just going to push away all things that are of that sexual nature. I'm not going to even entertain my sexuality or allow myself the curiosity of that because my mother will call me a slut.
I can also see how the mother's influence would infiltrate to the son on seeing those same things about women.
Yeah.
Like
Men or the fathers will say the same messages. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Interesting, interesting. And you said this is common. How common is it?
I mean, I think a lot of people suffer silently, so it's hard to know. When I name it, there's a lot of eye-opening ahas. Not everybody will come to therapy for this. Um, I don't have a huge practice with this. There's a segment of my practice, and there always has been my entire career of people who suffer from this. Um, But I think there's a lot of silent suffering because, again, it could be subtle to severe. So if it's just subtle, it can kinda look like, "Well, maybe I just need Viagra," or, "Well, I need to kind of fantasize about something while I'm having sex with you, and, okay, I can get by." Or,
Mm,
"Well, I have low desire in general, so it doesn't matter," versus
right.
actually low desire, it's, "I don't allow myself to be sexual because my brain perceives myself as needing to be in that sort of Madonna role."
But this can happen early on in a relationship, right? I mean, obviously,
Right.
if couples are wanting to procreate or have babies or whatever, then there's that obligation of duty to procreate, right? But you're saying that this could happen at any point in the relationship, early on after they get married or feel that they've made that sacred commitment.
Mm,
Obviously, in a lot of religions, they would like you to wait to have sex
mhm.
after you're married, especially in the Catholic religion. I know I grew up Catholic. It didn't work for me, but That's what they say, right?
Mm.
So I would imagine that if somebody does suffer from this complex, I mean, how long into the relationship is a point where they start to recognize this feeling of, can't do this because, or maybe they don't even recognize it. How I don't I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around this.
Mhm.
How does somebody I know you said that it could come in different forms and all that, and they don't recognize it. But there's gotta be somewhere in their head that they're putting this notion onto their partner, like, they've they've gotta be feeling this or sensing this, right?
Yeah, so I'll say the subtlety of it is this. So sometimes I'll have the way it gets internalized for women, oftentimes they'll delineate certain acts. I don't like oral sex. And I'll say, why? Giving oral sex. I just don't like it. Do you like receiving it? No, no, no. I definitely don't like it. Well, why? That's a very arbitrary thing. I mean, the sensation of it could feel very good if you allow it to at least be explored. No, 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 no. I just don't like it. It's like kind of yucky and slimy, right? That's the internalized message of this. It's sort of like that's a dirty act.
Mm.
And when you sort of bring it up and sort of dissect it that way, it's like, okay, that's the subtlety of it when it gets internalized. And that can be for either person. You often see that with oral sex. It's the oral sex dirty act. We don't like to do that one. But intercourse is okay because there's sort of a procreative element to it.
Got it. So I'm understanding a little bit more. That makes more sense. That could also be something that a lot of well, now that I'm thinking about it, if I actually do know somebody who is like, yeah, no, we're not going to do or we don't do that. And now I'm wondering, I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of that Madonna-Whore complex going on now because that was kind of the reaction to it that I felt like she was saying, "No, that's not okay for me to do because I just don't do that. I'm a good girl. I don't do that kind of stuff."
That's the thing. I'm a good girl, which is different, Kim, than because I get curious. Tell me why not? Because their answer might be, oh, because I was incested and that was forced upon me. Well,
Mhm.
no wonder you don't like it, right?
Right.
No trauma there. And so we want to be very respectful with that. So it's not always Madonna whore,
Right.
but the good girl, good boy language is an indicator. You know, the impact of religious messaging, whether or not you go to the church or not, is an indicator. The ability to be aroused by other but not your partner, you wanna get curious about that too, especially when it's sort of there's a sudden onset. It's like, I was into them, my partner didn't change, nothing really changed except for the commitment level.
So, I can see and maybe I'm just being super stereotypical, but I can see where the male, partner, in this case, in a heterosexual relationship, would be more apt to, find his sexual desire somewhere else and have that affair. But
Yes, so
if you
that comes into my office oftentimes. They come in as a couple struggling with an affair, and you dig down deeper and he just doesn't feel turned on by his partner, even though oftentimes the partner is like beyond stunning and he objectively kind of knows it but just cannot allow himself to see her that way. And all the other people he's having an affair with are like, you're like, well, that's a head scratch. And sometimes
Yeah.
to label this as sex addiction, Tiger Woods, or it could be a whore.
Maybe. No, but what about so if it's the same, situation for a woman, how does that how does sh is she going off and having the affair too? Because to me, it seems like, well, if you're putting that label of good girl or, this isn't okay because now I'm, married and all that, what is the how many of these women are going out and having affairs?
Not that many, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes. sometimes, because again, and it's not that they go out seeking the affair, they get caught off guard and seduced into something that they didn't even, they like sort of step into it accidentally, and then their fire gets turned on, and then they're like, oh, I'm a sexual being, oh wait, that lives inside of me. And that's where they can kind of get seduced into that affair, just to be like, wow, I can't believe this lives inside of me, I gotta explore this because I thought this was dead for so many years.
Yeah, yeah.
So those women might have an affair, but usually women who struggle with Madonna-Whore they're so good at shutting down their sexuality, they just shut it down. They're not looking to have a sexual affair outside the house. They might have an emotional one, but usually the emotional component of the relationship is sustainable enough.
So it's definitely a different outcome for a man than it is for a woman in this case.
Well, women don't have as much testosterone. And
Okay.
what happens, testosterone is our sex drive hormone. And this is why for a lot of women, our sexual arousal feels more elusive and inaccessible, because we can't be driven by the testosterone that men have. We have to be driven by the complexity of our mind. We got to be able to know what turns us on and what turns us off. We got to trust in foreplay that arousal has to be built and developed and cultivated versus just, the wind blows or there's a sexy image and my arousal's right there. Doesn't mean that there's a full erection right there. I mean, depends on their age. But
Yeah.
the arousal is just more accessible. And so what that means is we can repress it more, right? If it's not accessible to us and we're not giving ourselves permission to be sexual anyway, we could bury that pretty deep and ignore it. Men with a lot of testosterone can turn it off towards their partner if they're struggling with Madonna-Whore, but they can't turn it off altogether because there's still testosterone surging through their body. So they're
Right.
going to have to put it somewhere. They either put it into their self-pleasure practice or they put it into an affair.
Adam and Eve is not giving you 10% off and not 20% off or even 40%. Your discount is even bigger. AdamandEve.com is giving you a whopping 50% off. But why stop there? Use offer code MODERN and you'll also get 10 free gifts, like a sexy item for him, a special toy for her, and something you'll both enjoy, plus 6 free spicy movies and free shipping. So go to AdamandEve.com now for 50% off and more.
That's very interesting. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Modern Pleasure. I'm Kim K with Dr. Jenny Schuyler, certified sex therapist, and we're talking about something that is quite fascinating to me, because I'd never really heard about it before, but they call it the Madonna-Whore complex. And this isn't anything new, right? This has been something that people have been talking about for quite some time, probably hence the name, right? Nobody's really come up with a better way to describe it. um, it kind of resembles a lot of different thought processes that go into our brain. As Dr. Jenny says, that is our biggest sex organ that we have, and that makes a lot of sense too, right? Whereas you block yourself from that pleasurable experience because you've kind of put a label on yourself, right? Or a label on somebody else. Um, when couples find themselves in this situation, how to me, it seems like it's a very psychological thing to get out of. It's not necessarily about, I mean, I don't know. You're the doctor. How do you navigate your way back into a different thought process?
Yeah. So this is one of the most tricky things to work with as a therapist. I'll say that.
I
And
can imagine.
yeah. And it really takes the willingness of the person working to want to make a change.
Well, and because of where this complex sort of digs its roots from, I mean, it is definitely a deep-seated psychological feeling, right? I mean, like you said, this could happen from childhood. You could have let's just bring the narrative back in, right? It's like you've been taught through either your church or your parents or anybody of significant influence that this is how it's supposed to be, or maybe not how it's supposed to be, but anything that they're putting their influence on definitely comes back, like you said. Maybe your mother looked at a woman who was wearing a low-cut dress, put her label on it, and that's the label that you've stuck with in terms of your significant other. And does this, which leads to the question, i- is it just about sex, or is it about behavior? Is it about clothes? Is it about what they wear? Is it about what they do? Like if it's a
It doesn't
husband-wife
matter. I'll give an
situation.
example of a couple I saw, and she was, the most stunning, beautiful woman. I mean, let's just put her into, like, the Barbie doll category of the social narrative around beauty and youth. She fit it. Stunning. I mean, just objectively, I watched her walk into the waiting room and heads would turn.
Mm.
And this man struggled and could not have sex with her for years. And she would wear she would come in to session with, like, different fashionable, sexy outfits, with beautiful outfits, right? She tried to do the hot thing, and then she tried to do the beautiful thing, and there's a difference there. I don't know if you heard that Joe Rogan podcast where he differentiates that. It's great. But, like, she tried both. She was really trying to turn him on. He was very lost in all his affairs anyway because he had deemed her the Madonna, but he loved her and he spoiled her. And he objectively knew she was beautiful. He just could not get an erection with her.
So it
So
wasn't for lack of trying.
oh, yeah, he tried. It just didn't work.
Oh, so it wasn't the fact that he didn't find her desirable.
No, he didn't. He thought he could objectively see her as beautiful and love her and respect her, but if she laid there in a bikini or naked, nothing happened for him. He just could not access his arousal. He's like, I can't see you that way. I can't do that.
That is so interesting. But he must have at some point before were they married?
They never even they lived together. They were on the verge of, getting engaged, and they ended up not doing it because she was like, I can't enter a full life with you."
So that just muddies the water a little bit more because he hadn't even made that commitment of marriage where you would think that this is when that psychological part kind of starts, right? But you're saying it actually started before then for this couple.
I think they noted this when they moved in. So she had her own apartment, they were dating, they honestly they dated for a few years and they were fine. It was when she moved in with him that this happened.
That's really interesting.
And that's what happens for a lot of I've got a couple in their 20s. They're in their mid to late-ish 20s, and it for them too, it's the moment that they started to live together, because that's another level of commitment. It symbolizes, "Oh, we're living together." Right? Think about it. If you grow up Catholic and you're not supposed to be having sex before marriage, moving in together is a big deal,
It's true.
right?
I keep forgetting the religious component to all of this.
Yeah.
Is it just about the desire and sex, or does it also migrate into other behaviors that are not deemed, uh, okay, as far as like I can see. I'm going to use an example because I'm having a hard time articulating this because I'm still like cross-eyed over it. Um, I was married once before, and I remember that we had 2 children, and I remembered that I started working with another job, and at the time I was driving a, minivan, right? We all had the minivan with the kids. I'm not a minivan kind of person. I'm just not, I always had like cute little cards and all that. Well, when I got into this sales position, I didn't wanna be driving around in a minivan, and so I said, "Hey, listen," and it was, basically my car, and we were having issues anyway, and I said, I'm going to, get another car." And he said, "Well, what kinda car are you gonna get?" He goes, "No, I won't allow it." And I'm like, "Well, screw you. You're not gonna allow it, I'm gonna get one anyway." And I did, and I bought myself a cute little BMW, and I was really happy about it. And his comment to me was, "You can't drive around in a BMW, you're a mother." And I went, okay. And the reason why I bring up this comparison is I'm wondering, is it just about sex or is it about other factors? You can't be this or you can't do this because I'm holding you on this pedestal. You're my Madonna. You're not supposed to think or feel or do these things. Or is it and I'm asking this because I have no idea. Or is it just about that sexual desire?
I love that story, Kim. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna say probably everything. I I see it as it impacts their sexuality because that's what people come in the door leading with. But hearing that story is so interesting because my next question to you is what did sex look like? Did he seem to be did he struggle with you in that way or was he just
Well,
about the car?
no, he did. He struggled. Well, we both did. There was a lot of factors, but but it seemed like as soon as we got married, things changed. Like his, it wasn't about sex though. It was about, I think it was more about control. But ultimately, the marriage didn't work, and a lot of it had to do with that comment. You're a mother, and I went, oh, this is not going to go well for
Well,
for
good to
me.
ask yourself, Kim. Way to liberate yourself and be in your autonomy and in your power. And yeah, I mean, could that be a form of Madonna-Whore? I think so. Why not? That's
Yeah,
exactly it. You are a mother. You do not do this.
yeah, yeah, and so that was my question. It's like, it's not necessary because, he didn't have trouble getting aroused at all. That wasn't it at all. Like I said, I think it was more control. There was definitely, I wasn't, into it anymore because I knew that, this wasn't working for me. But,
You
but
know,
that,
he might not have. So here's the subtlety of Madonna-Whore, because I'll have men come in and tell me this, or I'll get them alone and they'll tell me, well, I can get aroused by her. I can get aroused with her, but I'm not with her. I am way off in my fantasy. I'm
mm,
never with her. So, if did you actually feel him attuned to you when you were having sex, or was he kinda could you feel him kinda checked out?
yeah, not towards, when things started going south, yeah. And things went south because of other reasons, not because of sex. But yeah. So how do you navigate your way out of this? I mean, you said that this was like one of the trickier things.
Yeah.
Um, w- what is it? What do you do?
Yeah, I'll tell you how I work it. I mean, one, I gotta be gentle and lead with the curiosity to make sure that this is the right label. And then the
Mm,
person has to accept it, right? Because I might be able to I sniff it out a lot, and some people are not willing to accept it and wear it, so I can't, impose my agenda. It has to come from them. Those who accept it and realize, "Yeah, that's me, and I wanna work on it," then there has to be the motivation to work on it, and that's not always the case because it's hard to work on. And there's a few different ways to kind of work on it. But the main thing you're trying to go after is integrate these two sides of your brain to allow the respect and reverence that the person still holds for their partner, right? This is my Mary Madonna. I have respect and reverence for her. But I'm also allowed to objectify her. I'm also allowed to sexualize her. I'm also allowed to see her as a lover and giving yourself that permission. And it's not just me giving, sometimes I can give somebody permission and they're off to the races, right? Like you. You're like, I got it. Thanks.
worked well.
Thank you, Jenny. Off I go. Right. This is not I give you permission to sexualize your lover and off you go. Right. This is like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I say the real work comes in because there's a few different you could take a different approaches with this. If you look at it, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of psychological theory. But one theory I like to use is internal family systems. And the idea there is we are a multitude of lots of different sub personalities or parts. And two of these personalities or parts are the Madonna and the whore, right? Or the part of me that sees you as Madonna and the part of me that sees you as whore. And so the idea is get these parts to meet each other right? Unburden the narratives. Like, why does it serve you to see that person as Madonna? And why does it serve you to not see her as whore?
Yeah.
Like, so how do you unpack the narratives? And it isn't knowing the narrative. It's going back into the narratives and going, oh, I remember that comment my mom made. Or I remember the comment that so and so, some religious person made, or just sort of like the inherent messages there and how they got downloaded. And so that's part of the work, and the other part is to really just starting to practice allowing the objectification to live in the relationship and allowing objectification to be a good thing. And I don't mean like you don't want to just go objectify humans, right? I'm not sort of saying
No,
that.
yeah. That's a tricky word.
It's a tricky word, but you do want to be able to objectify your lover so that you can see them as sexual too. Because the respect and the reverence is there and dialed in. You're blending it with, oh, but you're also this person that gets me aroused. I'm allowing your skin to tantalize me.
I have when let's can we kind of destruct the word objectify in this situation?
Yeah. So I'll do an exercise, Kim.
Okay.
Couples.
Oh, goody.
And we'll pretend George is here. Let's do a pretend George.
Oh boy. Okay.
So what I'll say to you, I call it casting couch. And I've called it casting couch long before Jeffrey Epstein was a thing, by the way. So
I was
I'm gonna
just
reclaim that term for me.
oh boy.
So I call it casting couch, and I basically say, I want you to pretend that I am a porn director. I want you to pretend that I'm blind. I want you to pretend that you are the marketing agent and your partner here, your spouse, is the actor or actress. And you are trying to sell them to me for my video, but I can't see them, so you got to use your words. So I want you to really get in there and be salacious, take off the censor, right? Take off the no censorship, no filter. Let yourself objectify your partner, right? Like go into the parts of them that you find sexy and salacious and fun and tell me why this person would be good for the porn video. Oftentimes they start with, well, you know what? Let's do the exercise, Kim. Can you pretend?
Oh my gosh.
So I'm blind. You're a marketing agent. Can't see your husband. Actually, I've really only seen him for like a passing moment on the screen anyway. So sell him to me. And it's porn. So sell him to me.
So I have oh my god, he's gonna hate this. So I have to sell him in a way that I'm sort of describing everything because it's porn, right? You need to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Allow
well,
yourself to see him in that way, to see
oh my
him in that
gosh,
way, to
this
taste him that way, right?
crazy.
And I can't see him, so you gotta sell him to my video.
Okay, well, first of all, he's Latin, so
Yummy.
he's dark-skinned. He is, tall, 6 foot. He's got a nice build. He has a shaved head, but a goatee and mustache. And he has a nice ass with a birthmark on it. Oh my god, he's gonna hate me.
You know,
And
the best.
and I'm just gonna say this, honey, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. This is therapy. Um, I tell him all the time. See, I'm not a prude. I tell him all the time that
Pause, pause, Kim.
yes.
Just check that narrative. I'm not a prude.
Oh my gosh, here we go with the narratives again.
I just wanna like,
No, it's good. It's good. I didn't even know that was a narrative.
yeah. Go ahead, keep going. Just come back.
Prude, meaning prude is a term that is gotcha. Gotcha. I hear you. I hear you.
That's fine.
But what I
Bad. Go ahead.
what I say to him all the time is that he has the nicest penis I have ever seen in my life. So, you take it from there.
No, I can't. I'm blind. What about it? Do you like the
What
size? the shape? Do you like the smell? Do you like the way it feels in your mouth, in your vulva? What do you like about it?
I can't believe we're doing this. I never thought this was gonna go take this turn over here. I like everything about it. I like the way it feels. The size is perfect. And he likes to keep his, he manscapes, so everything's nice and smooth down there too, so it feels really good. And, it's, it fits well everywhere. And it's actually quite attractive.
Mhm.
It's a nice color.
Good.
I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah,
Where sexiest? Like right out of the shower, in the shower, in his gym clothes, in a suit? What do you find like when are you like, he's the sexiest man to me right now?
he's the sexiest man to me when he walks around in the morning after he first gets up because he never wears underwear, and but he has a t-shirt on, so it's just kind of sneaking out a little. Yeah,
Teasing.
teasing, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he does that on purpose or not. He very well could be, but,
We went after this.
Oh my gosh. I might need marriage counseling after this because he might be just like, "Okay, TMI,
Well,
TMI."
Kim, he's gonna be over the moon, don't worry about it. He's gonna be so happy that you are able to sexualize him this way. I guarantee it. He's not gonna
Well,
look.
I'm
All these listeners are gonna be like, "Go, Kim! I'm jealous. That is
yeah,
lover of the century. Great."
until he finds out that my mother heard the episode, then he
Well, so she'll plug her ears. But, I want you to check something out for yourself, right? I want you to feel your body for a moment and see as you were describing that to me, do you feel the desire for obligatory sex, or do you feel a little desire for him?
after I've just described him to you,
Yep.
I feel desire for him that yeah, for
Mhm,
sure. And
mhm.
can you give me 15 minutes? I'll be right back. I might only need 10.
Yeah,
Oh boy. I asked for it though, didn't I?
but there it is, you just took I mean, here we just integrated all of it, right? All of our
Yeah.
little episodes of this is you taking responsibility for your arousal. You're like, "All right, I'm gonna see him this way. I'm gonna
So
allow myself to see him this way. I'm gonna
so
describe him this way."
so this word objectable is exactly objectify is exactly what I just did in that sense, right?
I
Interesting.
think you kind of objectified him.
Woo!
Good way. In a good like, it doesn't have to be a dirty word. It can be like, "Oh," and maybe you don't wanna use the word objectify, but certainly sexualize.
Right, right. Wow, okay. We're gonna get back onto this discussion of of our Madonna-Whore complex. I'm feeling a little flushed, but, Dr. Schuyler actually knows a lot about Adam and Eve and their products, and you've been working with them for a long time.
4 years, 4 plus years. Yeah, I've had a 4-year relationship with them, and I call it a relationship because it really is. They're very sex positive. They support, you know, all the topics I like to talk about. They like to hear my feedback. It really is a good relationship that's respectable and um, full of full of positivity. It's really beautiful. And yeah,
They've got a great story too.
they've got a great story. We should do another podcast one time on their story,
That
but
would
I'll
be
leave
great.
this to listeners for now. Go check out their website. There's a lot of cool products. If you're listening, you get a 50% discount using the word modern for Modern Pleasure Podcast, MODERN. And I mean, 50% discount and free shipping is great. So go just explore, have fun. Let your free wild side out. And the shipping. You did mention that the shipping is discreet. It really is. It comes in a very discreet box because I'll have couples say, "Ooh, I don't want to order anything. It's going to come in a flashy box and everybody's going to know I have a rabbit now." No, they don't even put Adam and Eve on the box label because they
Oh,
know
really?
that it has to be discreet.
It's
Yes.
gotta be discreet. That's good to know,
Make
right?
sure you
Yeah.
open the box because I've definitely had my babysitter open the box once because my kids were like, a box," and that was an interesting event.
Wow. And also, you get those 3 bonus sexy items, let's not forget about that, and 6 free movies. So and we really do appreciate you listening to Modern Pleasure. We're having so much fun doing this and learning a lot, and so just because you're listening, our friends at Adam and Eve are definitely giving you the specific discount when you use the code word MODERN. So head over to adamandeve.com and check it out. Check out all their fun stuff and use that code word modern. And maybe you'll take 15 minutes for yourself in the middle of the day. Oh boy. Dr. Schuyler, this has been quite a conversation. You actually, I think I blushed there for just a little bit and had no reason to expect that would happen today. Um,
But Kim, thank you for that vulnerability and courage because that is hard.
hey,
And
that's what I'm here for.
yeah, go back to the bedroom and tell him even 1/3 of what you just told all these listeners, he'll be fully turned on, right? If you're like, "Oh, George, I really like the shape and the color of your penis." He'll be like, "Great."
Yeah, I'm gonna try that, and then I'm gonna sit down with my deck of cards and go, "Hey, honey." We talked about playing strip poker in our last episode, and that's something I'm definitely bringing back. Um, I Getting back to our subject, I think we were on that path of I know you said that this is a really tricky thing to, help couples with because it can range in a lot of different areas, right? Like you said, you have to kind of uh, approach it very carefully. So, what do couples do? How what are the ways that they can get past this?
Yeah, I mean, so it's doing some of these exercises like I just named, right? And, like,
Yeah.
breaking the seal on that permission to see partner as sexual. I think that's a key piece. Sometimes I'll have them do every person's different, right? So I have to kind of play to their personalities. But some people are really artistic. I'll have them do a vision board. I had this one woman do a vision board. She had internalized her Madonna-Whore and saw herself as only the Madonna. So I said, I want you to go find a bunch of images of women that inspire you that are sensual, like sensually, like really get in there and put on a vision board. So she had like Beyonce dancing, and she just had a lot of cool women do, in different positions, empowered in their beauty, empowered in their sensuality and in their sexuality, in sort of sometimes in sort of salacious positions, but still like not, it's sort of like for me, like it was like for me. And what she was trying to go for was, I want to be sexual for me, right? I can play with my sensuality for me. And then I would have them play, so same woman, and other women, I'll have them play with wardrobe, right? In private. Put on something a little more risque and just feel what your body, and then and meditate with that. Meditate with that. Move with that in the mirror. Play with that. See how that feels. Try that on. Try to get a little more familiar with allowing that to be present. And you don't even have to go into public yet this way, right? What is it like to do that in private?
And you're referring to the woman as the person who is the object, the Madonna object, correct?
Well, this is when it's an internalized Madonna-Whore. So for the partner, if it's a male partner, for instance, who is trying to see his partner as sexy and as his lover, right? Where can he integrate her into his fantasies?
Mm.
He share some fantasies with her. Is he willing to listen to her fantasies? Right? Are they willing to sort of do some playful interventions that kind of, you know, yes, he might need to fantasize to kind of get there, but can he take some moments to be present with her and then go back to fantasy and then titrate back and forth between fantasy and being present, fantasy and being present. And in the present moments, allowing for there to be both love, respect, reverence, and my arousal, right?
Hmm.
Can I take the inspiration from the world that arouses me and infuse it into my relationship with my partner, right? And so that titration becomes less and less until he's able to be pretty present with his partner. Again, that's work, right? If we're so easily distracted by our fantasies, to come out of fantasy and be present, there has to be a willingness.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
for sure.
complex too, right?
Yeah.
Works. I mean, it definitely works, but motivation, person motivation is the key piece on success rate.
I have another question. You know, I've heard a lot of things, especially when it comes to men, about how it's funny that they find spouses that are very reminiscent of their own mothers, you know? Is that part of this complex, do you think?
No,
Or is
that's
that something
humanity.
different? That's what?
That's humanity. Freud called that repetition compulsion. We compulsively repeat the past. And then Harville Hendricks, with his imago therapy, sort of redid it in his way. But the idea is that because our imprint, our intimacy imprint, is so downloaded in our system, and if it didn't go well for whatever reason, emotional neglect, abuse, whatever, helicopter parents, if it didn't go so well, what happens in adulthood is we're like, sorry, that's my dog. It doesn't go so well, we go, "Oh, I'm gonna redo it. I'm gonna attract some iteration of my parents, either one parent or both parents, and I'm gonna get it right this time." Except we end up just trying to recreate our parents.
Yeah, well, that always isn't a good idea sometimes, especially in the bedroom, right? I mean,
It's inevitable that we are driven towards some iteration of our parents because that's what's familiar. It's the devil you know.
huh.
But that doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. It just means you can't project all your crap from childhood onto your partner.
I just wondered if that had played in any way a factor or role into the Madonna-Whore image. I mean, we talked earlier about how it's mostly kind of a religion thing in theory, right? But does that upbringing with, your parents' influence, in that way, add anything to that psychological barrier?
Maybe, but only if the boyfriend then projects mom onto you in the bedroom, and then if he sees you as his mother in the bedroom and he doesn't get turned on, then
Oh, I see.
right.
Different thing,
It's a
different thing.
different thing, the Madonna whore. It's a common thing because we end up projecting lots of mom, dad stuff onto our partners in and out of the bedroom. So, being conscious of that and not projecting that is a really huge part about our human evolution, and success as a human and as a couple. But I think that's a little bit different than Madonna whore.
A little bit different. You know
Yeah.
what I really like about these conversations is no question is off limits, and I remember thinking before we even started this, we had a number of conversations about what we thought this would be like, and it felt like, gosh, I'm gonna sound stupid if I say this, or if I ask this question, I'm just gonna feel like I don't know anything, or feeling uncomfortable about bringing certain things up, and it's the way we learn, right? And one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast is to allow that vulnerability to come through, to ask questions, whether they're and for example, the question I just asked, it's nothing is off limits. And I encourage anybody who has a question to send me an email at kim@modernpleasurepodcast.com, and ask your questions for Dr. Schuyler. She is definitely there to answer them. And perhaps, we may give you a call back. And if we find that you've got something extraordinary that we want to talk about, we might bring you into it. And then maybe Dr. Schuyler can have what did we do? A little session, not a session. We had a
Woman, did a little,
experiment.
yeah,
Yes. We did a little experiment, which was very interesting to say the
yeah,
least.
yeah.
So yeah, pose your questions, Kim at modernpleasurepodcast.com. And maybe you'll be a guest next time on our we love talking to people. I loved having Quinlan on the other day. So uh go ahead and shoot that email over to me with your questions and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah.
Um our next episode, what are we talking about next week?
Can I offer one more intervention if you do struggle with Madonna-Whore? Because we only talked about a few. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
home videos. So if let's say George doesn't struggle with this. Let's say there's a man that struggles with this because we're sort of on this idea of the heterosexual couple for now.
Yeah.
And please know, listeners, we will diversify. But if he's struggling, another way is to make a home video of his spouse. And he could do it from behind, right? Don't look at her face yet, but just a behind the video. And then she sort of turns, right? So what is it like to see on the screen your partner, right? Your partner offering this sensuality and this sexuality,
Interesting.
playing with different dynamics, right? You're trying to like open that schism in the brain and allow in your partner in a sensual sexual way. So they're not just pigeonholed or compartmentalized into Mary Madonna.
So you're talking about home video.
Yeah, home
Yeah.
video. Your
Yeah.
phone. Yes, yes.
Yes. Huh.
Yeah.
You've kind of mentioned this pornography type of issue, like the porn director or whatever. Is this a common fantasy? I know I'm gonna admit I've had these fantasies before where I'm, part of a porn movie and somebody's directing me. What is it about that? Is I feel like this is a common thread.
I mean, we should do a whole episode on eroticism.
We could talk for hours.
The erotic brain work and the different layers of erotic templates. And there's a great book too.
But you bring it into play for this particular subject. So obviously it's a very powerful tool.
Well, if a man is struggling with Madonna-Whore, he often has a strong relationship with porn because he's not having sex with his partner. So it's either porn and or an affair.
Gotcha.
So that's where I say let's make that which he's already probably using. Let's integrate that into his spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we sort of play with those dynamics.
Interesting.
And, your fantasy, Kim, is super interesting too, because my guess is, it's
I'm gonna do another exercise. I feel it coming.
somebody's controlling me, but it's my fantasy, so really I'm controlling the fantasy, right? It's the same why we have rape fantasies. Nobody actually wants to be really raped, but
I've never had that.
the rape fantasies, I'm in control of it.
Oh, interesting.
I get to run the narrative.
Yeah, that would be a fun episode, is to talk about fantasies and stuff like that. Wow, we could go on and on and on. Next episode is I think we really need to bring my husband in on this one. Mismatched libidos. I'm gonna try. I don't know if it'll happen, but I'm definitely gonna try. And that's gonna be I know this is a very common issue. I could probably count on both hands the number of people that I know, women especially, that complain about their libido. So that's going to be a fun topic. And that will be next time on Modern Pleasure Podcast. Again, thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Schuyler. Really appreciate your time. As always, I learn so much. And I can honestly say that my thought process in terms of not only my sexuality, but of that of my partner has definitely changed in terms of how I look at things. And I thank you for that. And I really hope that anybody listening is getting the same satisfaction out of these conversations that I am. So again, thank you so much. Join us next time for Modern Pleasure. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And don't forget, adamandeve.com. Get that 50% off by using code word modern. And this is specifically for you. So don't wait. Do it today. adamandeve.com, promo code modern. We will see you next time on Modern Pleasure.